It's stiffness any the physiotherapy दिया इस करी सको ने
तो जानता नहीं ला ले फिर
But remember, one has to understand that distal predominant, a lens.
Sandesh bhai, good evening.
Dr. Ramkrishna, good evening. So we have reached up to 81 participants. So good evening, everyone. So today's session we are concentrating on dementia examination. So today's moderator are Dr. Vaishak Renuji and Dr. Virutna Reddy. So I welcome today's moderator and Dr. Vaishak, you are online, Dr. Vaishak.
Yeah, yes, sir. I'm here. Sir.
Yeah. Dr. Ramkrishna, can we start recording the session? And today's students are Dr. Ratnesh and Dr. Vishwajit. And if anybody more they want to participate, they can also welcome. So can we start recording, Dr. Ramkrishna?
Yes, sir. 1 second.
Yeah, Dr. Baishak, you can introduce yourself. Then Dr. Virutna, are you online?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Baishak, you can go ahead. And Dr. Ratnesh and Dr. Vishwajit, they are online?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
hope I'm clearly audible,
Dr.
sir.
Baishak, you can
Yes,
go
sir.
ahead. You
Yes, sir.
can
Am I
introduce
audible, right?
yourself.
Silence.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm
First,
Dr.
let's
Vaishnav.
introduce the faculty by ourselves, then they can introduce
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah. So today's moderator, Dr. Baishak Renuji, he has done MD Medicine from Mysore Government Medical College and DM from Government Medical College Trivandra, and currently is Assistant Professor in Department of Neurology, MOSC Medical College, Kochi. And regarding Dr. Virutna Reddy, she has done her General Medicine MD from Osmania Medical College uh, and followed by Kamineni Institute of Medical Science and DM Neurology from Madurai Medical College and DRNB Neurology from and she cleared in 2024. Currently, she is working in uh, Vinutna Prasad Advanced Neuro and Spine Center, Tirupati. So, Dr. Vinutna and Dr. Baishak, we welcome and thank you your time for uh, giving some guidance to the current students who are exam going, and Dr. Ratnesh and Dr. Vishwajit Pawar. Vishwajit, sorry, they are participating in today's interaction. So, Dr. Baishak, you can start, and Dr. Vinutna, you can start, followed by we'll start the session.
Yeah, thank you, Shailesh sir and Ramakrishna sir. This is actually when I was just finishing my DM, while I was trying to write my DM, I was introduced to this page, this WhatsApp group. The sir was there, and I started studying from there for my DMB exam. So, uh, so it was actually a really great experience too. When like we are working in a private setup, it's a really good thing to have a go back to academic. So, ma'am, can you start like how will we going ahead? I'm having confusion whether it is like a case presentation where the students start or we start. Uh,
Yeah,
Let
it is the student will start, then you can ask some question, and if they want, and if possible, they will answer. And it is just a introduction class. From next week, we will have case presentation. And Dr. Vinutna, she will
okay,
present some slides after discussion, like summary she will have. So, Dr.
okay.
Vinutna, you can introduce, and if you want to tell something, you can tell, then we'll start.
First of all, I will thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity. So this is a very good platform which I enjoyed during my PG period. Now I'm literally like thankful for being as a faculty now. So we'll start like an interaction session rather than like a presentation or rather than like a teaching type. We'll have an interactive course so that even they will remember the tests which are they have to be going to run in dementia proforma and all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Ratnesh Sharma, you are online. You can
Yes, sir.
start the initial thing like how to start the examination and general examination, followed by
Sure, sir.
frontal lobe examination. Okay.
Yes, sir. Sir, I hope I'm audible clearly.
Yeah, yeah, you are audible. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Good evening, all faculty. Very thankful for this opportunity, sir. I would like to start with a basic outline of higher mental function evaluation as a part of a proforma how to proceed. Sorry, yesterday we covered history aspects and what to look for in the history aspects for the higher mental function evaluation. Sir, in examination, we would first like to I would first like to proceed with examination of handedness of the patient by the Edinburgh Handedness Inventory Scale. Then I would like to tailor my examination as per the cultural, education, and the work background of the patient. I would like to make sure what all languages the patient is fluent in so I can tailor my examination accordingly. Along with that, sir, I would like to assess the state functions, that is the arousal, attention, mood, and motivation. I would like to assess the level of consciousness, assess the level of cooperation of patient, his mood.
Regarding handedness inventory, can you
Yes, sir.
give us some light? What are the component?
Yes, sir. Sir, for testing the handedness of the patient, we ask the patients and relatives which hand does the patient use for predominantly for his daily activities such as signing a check, writing, drawing, throwing a ball, using knife to cut an object, or using knife to cut food items. What items does he use to? What hand does he use to play sports with? How does he open a box? How does he uh, strike a match, etc., sir? And we can also place certain items in front of the patient and ask the patient to demonstrate these activities. As per that, we can determine the handedness of the patient, sir.
Any
Sir, if
particular
the
any particular test or inventory is there, which at least a name you remember?
sir, Edinburgh handedness
Yeah,
inventory is used for the
yeah,
same, sir.
yeah.
So the total evaluation has some 20 items, and of the 20 items, if the patient, if any one limb scores more than 40, then that it is considered as a dominant limb. If the score is between minus 40 and plus 40, it is considered the patient is considered to be ambidextrous.
Okay. And we practically
Uh,
don't do all those things in exams,
yes,
but
sir.
just you know to know it. That's all.
Yes, sir. Sir, after that, I'd like to assess his appearance, behavior, and emotional state. And sir, as a part of general examination, I would like to assess his dressing, his affect. That would give us an insight as to which type of neurocognitive disorder he has. So patients with apathy tend to avoid dressing properly. Patients with apraxia and patients with neglect syndromes tend to shave one half of the face. They tend to dress improperly on one side. They have improper grooming on one half of the body. And sir, regarding affect, patients with frontotemporal dementia may have jocularity, excessive laughter. They might have emotional lability, and they might have disinhibited behavior. Patient with the pseudobulbar affect may have some emotional incontinence. They might have excessive emotional responses out of proportion to the stimulus provided. And yes, sir. I would like to proceed further with the general
Anything in
examination.
general? Yeah, general exam.
Yes, sir. Sir, under general
Yeah, you
examination,
proceed with general exam.
yes, sir, I would like to go by a head to toe approach. Sir, on examination of hair, sir, thinned out and fine hair can be seen in hypothyroidism. Loss of eyebrows can be seen in type 2 diabetes and hypothyroidism. Sometimes it can also be seen in arsenic poisoning. On examination of eyes, sir, on pupillary examination, Argyll Robertson pupil can be seen in neurosyphilis. KF ring can be seen in Wilson's disease. Uveitis can be seen in tuberculosis and neurosarcoidosis. Disc pallor can be seen in B12 deficiency and uh, demyelinating disorders of the CNS, sir. Uh, on examination of the face, sir, the patient might have a Cushing-White face in Cushing syndrome or steroid excess. A patient can have, if there is a malar rash or a butterfly rash or any other evidence of autoimmune disorder, we can consider a possibility of vasculitis or any other systemic autoimmune disorders. For example, butterfly rash seen in SLE. Glossitis can be seen in niacin deficiency. Sir, on examination of neck, there is Casal's necklace seen in niacin deficiency. Engorged neck veins can be seen in cardiac disorders. And prominent JVP can be seen in heart failure and other cardiac disorders. Uh, there can be tendon xanthomas in cerebrotendinous xanthinosis. There can be deafness, especially in mitochondrial disorders. And there can be,
The most,
we also have to,
yeah, the
yes,
most important one in the neck is actually thyroid. It's very common. Other than all this,
yes, sir, thyroid
thyroid is very
swelling,
common.
yes, yes,
Yeah, thyroid.
yes. Sir, also, I would like to look for systemic general examination findings for chronic kidney disease, chronic liver disease. that is wasting of the temporal area, flapping tremors, peripheral signs of chronic liver disease, and peripheral signs of chronic kidney disease. So angiokeratoma.
Yeah. Hello? Hello? Am I audible? Hello?
Hello. Yes, sir. Sir, sorry, the audio got disconnected. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah. 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 Right. So
Yes,
basically,
sir.
in a general examination, you want to see what are the correctable cause of dementia or treatable dementia is basically your aim of seeing in general examination. Other than whatever you well mentioned, all those things comes together. Basically, you want to see the correctable dementia, right?
Yes, sir.
Any treatable
Yes.
dementias.
Yes, sir.
So what all things you consider under treatable dementias basically? Just go and see
Sir,
whether these any of these are there in the examination because like you cannot like extensive general medicine thing cannot be always possible. You just have to see whether
yes, sir.
any correctable part is there, anything treatable. So what all things comes under treatable dementias?
Sir, under treatable or yes, under treatable dementias, we can group them under the following subheadings, sir. Vascular, active, immune-mediated, toxic, metabolic, autoimmune or inflammatory, uh, and
Yeah, when
neoplastic
when,
and
when
degeneratives.
yeah, one easy way is a mnemonic. We can remember it as dementia only. D
Yes, sir.
for drugs, E for
Yes, sir.
emotional, basically depression, schizophrenia. Then M for metabolic and endocrine. E for eye
Yes,
and
sir.
ear. Sometimes you have a severe visual and hearing also can trigger cognitive dysfunctions. And N
Yes,
for
sir.
nutritional NPS. T for trauma and tumor. I for infections and inflammations in autoimmune. A for
Yes,
anemia,
sir.
which particularly beta and folate. So dementia, the name itself tells all the you can remember the treatable dementias.
Yes, sir.
D for drugs, E for emotional, M for metabolic endocrine, E for eye and ear, N for nutritional, T for trauma and tumor, and I for infections, inflammations, A for anemias.
Yes, sir. Under, sir, vascular causes, I would like to uh, enumerate CADASIL as primary and secondary CNS vasculitis and vascular cognitive impairment. Under infectivityology, sir, CNS TB, neurosyphilis, Whipple's disease, Lyme's disease, HIV-related dementia. Under, sir, toxic, heavy metal, alcohol, carbon monoxide. Under
Yeah,
autoimmune, sir, autoimmune paraneoplastic and Hashimoto's encephalitis. Under metabolic, sir, B12, thiamine, vitamin E, niacin, vitamin D deficiency,
yeah,
hypo or hyper.
the big list will come basically. Basically, the common things you have to see whether any findings suggestive of this. Most common things is one is nutrition. Look for nectar
Yes, sir.
pigmentations. Look for any anemias and look for any thyroid. I mean, sometimes even hyperthyroidism there will be underlying Hashimoto's or sometimes TPO, DTPO, all those things. Basically, you have to see whether any correctable things is that nutritional, metabolic, and in the history you may get some history with the drugs also.
Yes, sir.
Other things you may get in the investigations or during the in the examinations. Right.
Yes, sir. And sir, under non-treatable or neurodegenerative causes, general examination findings can be, sir, uh, sir, a decreased blink rate in Parkinson's disease. And but sir, although that would be under detailed motor examination, should I cover it under general examination or no, sir?
If they say
Yes, sir.
hello, hello,
Hello. Yes, sir.
yeah, this is more like a discussion rather than case presentation. So when the pertaining case comes, if you see like something like significant decreased eye blinks or something, you can mention the history of general examination. Also, you can mention. Uh,
Okay, sir.
Otherwise, like the entire discussion, the general examination will has lot of things in it.
Okay, sir.
So it will be difficult to tell everything right now. But in the pertaining to the case, if you suppose you are seeing a patient has a classical PSP with
Yes, sir.
very much decreased eye blinks and frowning and forward, you can even mention the general examination. No problem. In not, I mean, like you can mention it very readily in the general examination to do examination. What we can tell.
Yes,
Not the
sir.
gate and all, but you can tell what all things very grossly you are seeing.
Yes, sir. Sir, after general examination, I would like to
Ma'am, anything to add, ma'am?
No, sir, everything is covered. There's nothing more to add.
Okay, you can proceed. Actually, the pattern of examination, I think, might have been evolved and changed rather than what I have studied because I studied maybe 4 or 5 years back. So I think
Yeah,
it has
so
been
no, no,
evolving. I have
everything
no
is
idea about
covered.
what is happening right now.
No, no, no. It's still the same, and yeah, he covered everything, sir. Yeah.
Sir,
Continue.
should I move on to the outline of clinical evaluation of
Yeah,
higher mental functions?
yeah.
Sir, sir, I would like to examine the higher mental function under 8 major subheadings, sir. The first subheading being attention, orientation, and concentration. Sir, I have kept it as the
So
first
basically,
subheading because
I just want to ask one question that when will you tell it is dementia? What is the basic thing in dementia? Like we might have discussed in the last session. I have no idea because I have not attended the entire session. I came in the last part only. So when you tell the patient has dementia,
sir, when the patient has a difficulty in conducting his routine activities of daily living, the symptoms are causing issues with his personal life or with his job and causing difficulties in activities of daily living.
so
That's
basically activities in daily living, what all things are there in ADLs?
what about the domains?
Ma'am, under DSM-5 definition, they have put 5 domains. The first is, ma'am, attention and concentration. So, ma'am,
5
the
or
first
6?
domain is six. Yes, sir, sorry, sir. There are six
Yeah, okay.
domains.
Yeah.
The first domain is complex attention, which has 3 subheadings, sir: sustained attention, divided attention, and selective attention. Followed by executive function, followed by learning and memory, language,
Yes.
perceptual motor, and social cognition.
So how many domains should be involved in dementia? So when do you call it as
Ma'am,
dementia? Is there any duration?
ma'am, there should be a significant decline from the previous level of performance in more than or equal to one cognitive domain.
For how many days? Duration?
Ma'am, a specific duration, ma'am, I don't know. I'll have to seek the specific duration. Ma'am, for rapidly progressive dementia, it is less than or equal to 1 year.
Yeah.
Yes. And for
Actually, the rapid progressive dementia
more than 1 year.
definition, which was given the broadly is 2 years, but usually practically we take it as 1 year. Is
Yes, sir.
what I remember.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but
And
dementia,
what?
these symptoms should be perceiving for more than 6 months to call it as a dementia.
Okay, ma'am.
And what about ADL? How will you tell? How will you subclassify ADL syndrome?
Sir, sir, I did not get your question, sir.
Hello. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. How will you divide ADL?
Sir, we can ask we can ask as part of routine questions. Does he have
Like
difficulty
how
paying
will you
bills?
classify? How will you classify ADL? Or how will you divide ADL? ADLs are of two types. One is instrumental
Yes, sir.
ADL and second is basic ADL. ADLs of basic life means you're eating, bathing, all those things. But instrumental means day-to-day life, like using
Yes,
finance,
sir.
managing finance, using mobile, using remote. So sometimes, most of the times, dementia, the initial manifestation will be affecting instrumental ADL. So
Yes, sir.
they will be carrying out their routine activities normally, but they have difficulty in managing with because previously he was using mobile, now he is unable to use. Previously he was able to work on computer, now he is unable to do that. So those things are instrumental ADL. The instrumental areas
Yes, sir.
involved also can be considered under dementia if it is like major neurocognitive disorder. So if it is not fitting and the areas are unaffected, but still the patient has some cognitive difficulties, you can classify it as MCA, minor
Yes, sir.
neurocognitive. So
Yes, sir.
and you have to rule out other causes, other drugs, other all those correctable things, and other things has to be excluded. Then you will consider it as dementia. So MCA again, how will you subclassify MCA?
Uh,
Amnestic
sir,
and
I'll have,
non-amnestic. Yeah, because
yes,
amnestic has high risk of progression to AD. Then again, there are
yes,
many pathological and other findings can be used to subclassify. But practically, it is easy to classify the amnestic, non-amnestic, single domain, multi-domain. That is easy way to do
Okay,
it.
sir. Yes,
So
sir.
when you're taking the history, you have to focus on the instrumental areas as well as the basic areas.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes. Sir, I'd like to enumerate the 8 subheadings for the higher mental function examination. So first being attention, orientation, and concentration. After that, I would like to, if the patient's attention, orientation, and concentration are impaired, then the further examination of higher mental function becomes very difficult. That is why attention, orientation, and concentration should be tested first. Followed that, after that, I would like to assess language. After that, I would like to assess memory by higher cognitive function, that is executive function, reasoning, judgment, insight, and abstract thinking. After that, I would like to assess emotional and behavioral dysfunction, disorders of followed by disorders of visual and auditory perception, disorders of spatial neglect, and disorders of praxis. So the last 3 are covered under the perceptual motor domains. And lastly, as we discussed yesterday, sir, I would like to also brush up on the sleep dysfunction aspect of the history.
So what is
So
the
these are
significance
the
of sleep?
8.
I don't know whether it is discussed or not.
Yes, sir. Sir, under history, it
Hello?
was discussed yesterday that sleep should be covered under the history in view of sleep being affected in neurocognitive disorders such as
What is the specific thing about like especially sleep is important in what all things we will assess in sleep per se in dementia. I mean,
yes,
tell
sir.
me one thing which is very significant in dementia.
Sir, we have to ask for REM sleep behavioral disorders. And other, sir, that is
Okay.
the latency of sleep. How fast does the patient fall asleep? How long is the patient able to maintain his sleep? How
Basically,
many awakenings?
ED is excessive daytime sleepiness and REM sleep are
Yes,
two
sir.
things which is quite important.
Yes, sir.
Particularly REM sleep is seen in which disorders?
Yes, sir.
REM sleep disorder is seen in which disorder?
Sir, in synucleopathies, mainly, sir,
Yes,
Parkinson's
synuclein.
disease and MSA.
Yeah, it is a pathognomic feature of synuclein, and this can present very early. One important thing is excessive daytime sleepiness. Many of the DLBs, many will have those REM behavior and all those things. They may have
Yes,
overlap
sir.
with OSA. So if they have OSA, if you treat the OSA, the dementia part will improve. So that is
Yes,
very
sir.
important, particularly when you're taking the history of dementia, and so particularly when the patient has a small duration of dementia, it will also keep the possibility of some OSA or all those things you have to evaluate, because OSA sometimes if you treat it, the REM sleeping disorder will disappear in such patients. I have personal experience with one of my relatives.
Yes, sir. Sir, these are all the points I'd like to cover in a part of brief evaluation of higher mental functions.
Yeah, you can proceed.
Okay. Ma'am, can I proceed to frontal lobe examination?
No, how do you check your attention in the patient? You just gave the side headings, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
how do you check the attention?
Ma'am, attention can be tested by forward digit span, serial subtraction, the tap A test, and random letter cancellation test.
Okay, how do you check the
For,
sustained attention, which is nothing but vigilance?
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, sustained attention can be tested by serial subtraction, which is we ask the patient to subtract the number 7 from 100 serially until 5 serial subtractions.
So what's the
Which is the
difference
better
between
test than
attention and
the
vigilance?
second? What is the issue with the?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, ma'am. Continue.
No, sir, I'm just asking what's the difference between attention and vigilance? What is an attention and what is vigilance?
Ma'am, attention can be for a short lasting period or for certain objects or certain amount of time, while vigilance is to maintain that attention over a long period of time over step by step activities. For example, forward digit span would test only attention, but serial subtraction would test attention as well as the vigilance.
Okay, so for attention, we'll be performing this digit repetition, which is nothing but digit forward, digit backward, days in a week, months in a year. For vigilance, which is nothing but sustained attention, the test which we are told that random A test, spelling a word backward, serial subtraction, three-step command,
Yes, ma'am.
these all comes under vigilance. So while
Okay, ma'am.
telling, you just tell it a little bit clearly.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
Next comes to your orientation. So how do you check the orientation? What parameters are you going to test in orientation?
We test the patient's orientation to time, place, and person. In
Yeah.
MMSC, 5 points are there. A patient is asked what is the approximate time, what is the day of the week, what is the current date, what is the current month, and the current year.
What are the side headings in
And
MMSC?
yes, ma'am.
What are the 5 parameters in MMSC?
Ma'am, first heading is orientation,
Mhm.
which has 10 points. Second
Mhm.
is attention and concentration.
No,
Third is registration. Yes,
you
sorry, ma'am. Second is
remember like this. First is orientation. Second, you
yes, ma'am.
go with registration. Third
Yes,
is
ma'am.
your attention.
Attention.
After
Yes,
attention, you can go for a recall.
recall. Yes,
Then for language.
language and
Ora RL.
okay, ma'am.
Hello.
Okay, that will be easy.
Yes,
Like in mid of your exam, if you get a stuck, if you remember that Ora RL, you will get the side headings.
Hello.
okay, ma'am.
I mean, you were telling few tests of attention, now, like serial subtractions, then forward, backward. So, what is the problem with serial subtraction?
Sir,
Which one is
patient.
better? If you just want to assess an attention test.
Sir, forward digit span, backward digit span are better, sir, because serial subtraction would also require the patient to have intact calculation ability. And some uneducated patients might not be able to carry the serial subtraction test.
Yeah, you need lot of things in like you need calculation, you need their intellectual, you need their intelligence. All those things has to be there. And about the
Yes.
forward and backward, anything difference between forward and backward?
Sir, forward
What is
digit
it?
span assesses our working memory. In forward digit span, we ask the patient to repeat the numbers in the order which we have repeated. For example, we start with 1, 5, and the patient is asked to repeat the same. The normal forward digit span is up to 5 to 7, while backward digit span is the normal backward digit span is -2 of the forward digit span. So while the forward digit span assesses working memory, the backward digit span assesses the set shifting capability of the patient.
Yeah, even the backward digit span requires more of a dorsal to prefrontal involvement plus some of the temporal involvement as well. But the forward digit span is more the attention. But again, uh, you have to see how the difference between forward and backward. If the forward and backward, like if you see the patient is able to tell forward up to 6 digits, but backward he can tell only one or two. The difference is more than
Yes, sir.
two between forward and
Yes,
backward.
sir.
That tells you that it is more executive dysfunction than pure attention. It is more executive dysfunction there. So you can
Yes, sir.
infer it that way also because it requires more of the more attentive power. And again, this forward count may not be working memory always. It just requires a short term memory only. Slight difference with working memory with the short, I mean, other pure immediate memory. We will discuss them when you're discussing temporal.
Okay, sir. Uh, yes. Sir, after that, I would like
You can
to
proceed.
yes, sir. Sir, after that, I would like to move forward with executive functions. Sir, executive functions are, sir, mainly so the tests for frontal lobe can be divided in as a test of planning, test of response inhibition, a test of mental flexibility, a test of fluency, test of sequencing, attention concentration, test of abstract thinking, working memory, and tests for intentional motor systems. Uh, Sir, most of these are covered.
What is
Few of
executive
these are
function
covered.
basically?
Sir, inability to plan,
What is basically
organize.
executive function?
Sir, executive function is the ability of the individual to plan and organize an activity. Sir, it consists of a certain number of
It's a
steps, sir.
goal directed activity.
Yes, sir.
So it's basically a
Sir,
goal directed activity. Executive functions, there is a goal. The goal has a like it has a plan to attain a goal in a specific time. That is classically the
Yes,
executive function. And especially when there is a novelty of stimulus or novelty of requirement. Like suppose you are staying at your home and suddenly the water is not coming in the pipe. So that is a novel situation. That is where you have to use your executive function. This is something which is can ask in the dementia patient. Previously, especially in male patient, if they were at the home in our situation, if there is some problem happens with such scenarios, they will go and act and manage those things. Now they are not managing it. That is actually a part of
yes.
executive dysfunction. So that requires multiple steps. So what are the steps in executive dysfunction?
Sir, the first step is planning or organization. The patient has to identify the steps needed to solve the problem or to carry out the task. After that,
Right.
sir, patient has to initiate the activity. And sir, after
Correct.
initiating the activity, he has to resist the urge to move on to other activity or to get distracted. Sir, some activity may require shifting to another activity. That means patient should have a mental flexibility, the ability to shift from activities to another without getting distracted or without leaving the activities incomplete. And sir, after
Okay.
that, patient should have a good working memory. So these are the components of executive
Yeah,
function.
basically planning. Yes, suppose the water is not working, whether I have to plan what is the problem, how is it happening, what is the basic issue behind it that I have to think and hypothesis I have to make. Then start
Yes,
initiating that thing, and after initiating, you have to monitor. You have to monitor the activity whether it is going correctly. You
yes,
get monitoring errors can also occur in executive dysfunctions. Then you go with whether like suppose you are I mean you're repairing your tap which is not working. Suddenly you hear music from nearby room. You should not get lack of attention. So that requires inhibition. You have a
yes,
selective inhibition, cognitive inhibition, and response inhibitions. Then
yes,
set shift in between. Suddenly you are getting a phone call which is urgent. You may take the phone and continue repairing the tap. So that requires shifting of set between. That is mental fluency or like not fluency, the flexibility where you can manage multiple things. Then you need
yes,
a working memory, and that is what like you're telling. That these are the part of executive functions.
yes.
So what all tests you're telling which manage the executive functions?
Sir, first would be the test of planning. That is the Tower of London test. The patient is asked to perform the Tower of London test, in which the patient has to try and solve the puzzle in the fewest number of moves possible, while moving only one piece at a time, sir.
Okay.
Uh,
Actually, I have
yes,
never
sir.
done this test. I have just, like I don't know whether it has changed or not. We were not just in the textbook; it was that we are not doing it practically.
So even we never done this. This is only given in textbook.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes. Sir, after that comes a test of response inhibition. That is the Stroop test and go-no-go test. Sir, go-no-go test is covered under frontal assessment battery. Sir, under a go-no-go test, the patient is asked to, when the examiner taps twice on the table or any object, the patient is asked to tap once. And when when the examiner taps once, the patient is not asked to tap. So essentially test the response inhibition,
Okay.
the urge of the patient to tap an object.
What
Sir,
is
we can also
frontal
carry out.
assessment battery?
Ma'am, frontal assessment battery is a tests for executive function. It tests for response inhibition mainly, and it tests for fluency. It is categorized under 6 subheadings. The
Okay.
first is yes, ma'am. The first is, ma'am, abstract thinking. That is, the patient is asked to uh, yes,
Tell
ma'am,
about the
they asked to
similarities
identify.
between three sets
Yes,
of.
ma'am. First is similarities. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
The patient is asked to identify. Asked the patient three objects, and we are test if the patient is able to find any similarities between them.
Okay. So all
After that,
responses will, so how will you assess the response? For suppose
uh,
you gave an set of words like banana and orange.
yes, ma'am.
So how do you assess? What
Ma'am,
parameters should be taken into consideration?
we'll ask the patient how are these objects similar.
Okay.
For example, if the patient says that they both have a similar taste or a similar color,
Mhm.
then we give them ma'am, 0 points. If the patient says that both objects are not alike, then we give them 0 points. If they're
Okay.
able to identify some similarities, for example, if it is a fruit or if it is something to eat, then we can
Okay.
give the patient a point for the same.
Okay. So for three sets, we'll be giving
So
three
basically,
points.
Yes, sir.
Basically, you have to give the best point when they the superlatives. Like if you show them like you tell a chair and table, they tell both are furnitures. That is superlative categorization. That has a maximum
Yes,
of
sir.
scores. You can check in the what why we followed was stub and black. In that there is the scoring has been given.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then the second after similarity.
Sir, after similarities, it is a lexical fluency. The patient is asked to say a number of words starting with the letter S or any other letter. If the patient is able to say more than 9 words, he's given 3 points. That is a maximum points. If the patient is able to say 6 to 9 words, then 2 points. If the patient is able to say 3 to 5 words, then only 1 point. If the patient is able to say less than 3 words, then 0 points. The duration is allowed is 60 seconds. The patient has to say words in 60 seconds, and the patient is not allowed to use names or surnames or proper nouns.
Okay.
Sir,
Then
after that,
categorical
there is
fluency.
sir,
Categorical fluency is not part
this
of FAB, but yeah, but
yes, sir.
categorical fluency. What is the difference in categorical fluency and phonemic fluency?
Sir, categorical fluency tests the lexicon as well as the semantic knowledge of the patient. For example, if we ask the patient
Them,
to yes, sir. So we ask the patient to list out the all
yeah, correct.
whatever animals names he remembers or vegetable names he remembers
Yeah,
or fruits name
yeah,
he remembers.
yeah. That requires some involvement at the temporal area also. It's not a
Yes,
pure
sir.
frontal lobe. Okay. Then
Yes.
after that,
Sir, after that comes Luria's test, that is the motor Luria's test. The patient is asked to perform a certain set of activity, that is fist edge palm sequence.
okay.
The examiner conducts the series 3 times in front of the patient. And after that, the patient is asked to do the same with the examiner thrice and then uh, on his own thrice. So if the patient is able to perform 6 times on his own, then we give maximum points. If the patient is able to do with the examiner correct sequence, then 1 point. If the patient does at least three consecutive tests a series, then he is given 2 points. If the patient
And that's
cannot
okay.
perform
Yeah,
the
you can score all these tests. You can just tell the test, otherwise it will take a lot of time. You can score
okay,
all these tests. What is the next step we do? After that,
sir, after
go
that,
now, go test.
conflicting instructions and go no go test is. And after that, prehension
Yeah,
behavior, that is assessment of grasp reflex.
environmental dependencies.
Yes.
But actually, ma'am, I don't know whether it was correct or like what we followed was a totally different protocol where we were following like lobe ways. Whether it has changed or not, I don't know. We
So
usually
which
do
one's like?
frontal lobe where you see the inside. I mean, for like cognitive examination, what we followed when we were DM
Actually,
was
even
basically we
this
divided into lobes
testing.
rather than
So, actually, dementia proforma now has been individualized, sir. So, each and every student, while preparing, they are making their own proforma according to the convenient. But what we learned was we'll be starting with motor cortex, premotor cortex, supplementary motor cortex, frontal eye field, Broca's areas. Then we'll be going to prefrontal cortex. In that prefrontal cortex, we used to divide into three types: dorsolateral prefrontal cortex for the execution, medial frontal cortex and orbitofrontal cortex. This is how we used to perform lobar function test for frontal lobe.
ours was totally different. Like if we followed was like we start with in I mean frontal lobe insight judgment, similarities, attention, vigilance, then relay, trail B, then abstract, then problem solving, all those things. That was the
Yes,
protocol we were following.
yes. That we used to tell under higher cognitive function test in the initial part before the frontal
Okay.
lobe test.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, can continue.
Yes, sir. Sir, after that, testing for, sir, we tested for response inhibition. We can, after that, sir, there is test for mental flexibility. That is set shifting. So 2 tests can be carried out. That is the trail B test and Wisconsin card sorting test. So in the trail B test, patient
So
is
what is the
asked
difference
to,
between trail A and trail B?
sir, trail A mainly tests, sir, the working memory and the trail B tests for set shifting, sir.
As well as visual spatial and attention also required. And when
Yes, sir.
how many circles is actually required for trail A, trail B?
Sir, for trail A, the patient has to complete within 90 seconds. And for trail B, the patient has to complete it within
How
120
many circles?
seconds.
How many circles?
Sir, Up to 25 digits, total 25 circles in tray
Yeah,
laser
there should be
and around
25, and there should be
26.
dimensions should be correct. Like if you're drawing some 1 or 2, 3 or 6 or 7, that actually doesn't fit to classical trailer. The trailer actually you have to
Yes,
do 25 circles. If it is
yes,
trail B, 1 to 13 and 8 to L, something like that. Again,
yes,
similar 25 only.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, after that, moving on to a test of fluency. That is a word fluency, FAS test, testing of semantic or category fluency. That is asking the patient to enumerate names of animals or vegetables or any other specific category. And
Okay, that
sir,
we'll discuss.
followed, yes, sir, this is followed by test of sequencing. That is, sir, a graphical sequence. That is graphical urea. Manual motor sequencing. That is the motor urea test. And after that, sir, we discussed attention and concentration, that is TAP-A test and random letter cancellation test. So proverb interpretation, the patient is asked the meanings of proverbs. At least, sir, we ask the patient 5 proverbs. He's asked to give the interpretation of the proverbs in his own language. If the patient is able to concretely explain that this is the meaning of the proverb, then he's granted the maximum points. For semi-abstract and abstract, less points are given. After that, sir, working memory is tested by the backward digit span and the letter span test. And yes, sir.
What is troop
After that,
test?
ma'am, Stroop test tests for the selective attention and response inhibition. The patient, there is a card, ma'am, and in the card, letters are written. For example, the word blue is written in red color. The patient is required to read the color words and then name the color of the ink in which the color word is printed. For example, ma'am, the patient, like blue is written, but the ink is red, so the patient has to say red followed by those colors. Yes.
Yeah.
After that, ma'am, we can also assess the judgment. For example, we ask the patient, what will happen if this place catches fire, or what would happen if there is a earthquake? How would you proceed in this situation? Then by this we can assess the judgment of the patient. And insight of the patient is assessed by asking whether the patient has insight into the illness and how does the illness affect his life and affect the relatives as well as his daily activities. And last, we would like to check for environmental autonomy, that is the grasp reflex. And in physical examination, we would also like to cover the release reflexes, that is the pathological reflexes, grasp reflex, root reflex, sucking reflex, and the palmomental signs.
Actually, this performer is actually really new to me. Like we were doing almost in the test only, but the placing of the things were different for us when we were doing. So basically, how will you, like, somebody was asking, what are the things you see in basically how will you classify the frontal? How are the important areas of the classification of prefrontal cortex?
Sir, 3 major subdivisions of prefrontal cortex are there. So that is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, uh,
Okay.
orbitofrontal cortex, and medial prefrontal cortex. Sir. So
Hello.
the
Am I audible?
dorsolateral,
I cannot hear in between. Uh,
yes, sir. Sir, 3 major subdivisions of the prefrontal cortex are there. That is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, orbitofrontal cortex, and the medial prefrontal cortex.
okay. What are the major roles of these areas?
Sir, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is mainly involved in, sir, executive function, response inhibition, and for metacognition, sir. Planning, set shifting, all these activities are under the
So,
dorsolateral prefrontal cortex.
metacognition is actually whether it is in dorsolateral prefrontal, you have any additional areas other than these three. Anything else is there? Any additional areas has been come up?
Sir,
Some of the textbooks, like if you
manipulation,
go to some of the books, if you go, especially continue and all, they mentioned about the frontal pole. So,
yes, sir.
the frontal pole. What is frontal pole and what areas you can include in this frontal pole? Its frontal pole is actually the anteriormost for the prefrontal cortex, which includes actually part of the dorsolateral prefrontal, orbitofrontal, as well as the medial frontal. This is actually concerned with like they have strong wiring with insular network, And this is actually concerned with theory of mind and metacognition.
Yes, sir.
So what is
Okay,
metacognition? What is theory of mind?
sir.
And
Metacognition.
whether there is any test for the theory of mind. Just name the test. That's all.
Sir, there is a, I don't remember the exact name, sir, but in that test, they are asked to,
Sally
there is
Annie test.
assessment of Barry any test. Okay, sir.
Sally Annie test. Sally places a ball somewhere and goes out of the room. Annie comes and replaces something like that. So basically, metacognition. What is metacognition?
Sir, ability to think about one's own
Because
thoughts.
yeah, because you were just telling the word metacognition. That is why you just asked. Metacognition is one of the highest cognitive environment where, like for example, a practical example, if you are planning for your exam, you should know
Yes,
the
sir.
difficulty of the exam. You should know the difficulty of yourself, and then you plan how to acquire the target. Then during the process, you execute it, you monitor it continuously, and you in between you write exams and check whether you are attaining the target. So it's a whole process of planning of executing a higher uh, cognitive activity which requires collection from multiple areas. That is actually the anterior part of the rosetta prefrontal. Anterior part of this has the network with the insula which helps in this one. And the theory of mind is basically how like it is divided into three theories. One is cognitive, affective, and cognitive theory. Cognitive is cognition, knowing others' emotion. That is where the Saliani test comes in. And
Yes.
second is affective, to look at the emotion or feel the emotion of others. Then cognitive is influence others' mind. That is a theory. Even
Yes, sir.
for each study, first and second, so the cognitive and affective, you have some tests. Cognitive, you can assess the Saliani, but those tests are not practically useful just because you were telling about all those things. Yes.
Yes. And sir, at last, I would like to assess the release reflexes. That is the pathological reflexes. Palmomental sign, the grasp reflex, and root reflex and sucking reflex. So,
Why do
this,
release reflexes occur?
ma'am, the loss of inhibition of the primitive reflexes because of the degeneration of the fibers, because of degeneration of the areas responsible for inhibition of these primitive reflexes, there is the reappearance of these reflexes, which suggest a degeneration of the frontal lobe and its connections.
No, that's wrong. Frontal lobe is under inhibition by so
Parietal,
release reflexes. Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
So
Yes,
loss of parietal inhibition,
yes, ma'am.
not frontal degeneration.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I would like to conclude frontal lobe examination.
Yeah, continue.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I would like to conclude.
Yeah.
Last, ma'am.
One suggestion.
Yes, ma'am.
All the tests are like little bit haphazard.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
be better if you organize those tests
Okay, ma'am.
so that it will be easy for you to remember in the exam and it will be easy
Yes,
to
ma'am.
conduct with the patient.
Yes, ma'am.
So before going to your exam, organize your performer properly.
Okay, ma'am.
Because of the tension and fear, a few
Yes,
things
ma'am.
you'll be forgetting it. So with proper organization, you will be remembering at that time of dot dot also.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
just summarize it.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to summarize my outline of clinical evaluation. First domain is attention, orientation, and concentration. Second is language. Third is memory. Fourth is higher cognitive function, that is executive function, reasoning, judgment, insight, and abstract thinking. Emotional, behavioral dysfunction, and sleep dysfunction. Disorders of visual and auditory perception. Disorders of spatial neglect, and disorders of praxis.
I think you can't examine disorders of sleep in examination, right? It's better if you
Yes, ma'am.
restrict the thing to history itself rather than getting into examination.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
And I'm under frontal lobe tests. I would like to summarize them as test of planning, test of response inhibition, test of mental flexibility, test of sequencing, tests of fluency, attention and concentration, abstract thinking, working memory, and release reflexes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that there may be change in performance in each place. Maybe like in state or something like that. Because I mean, different places for different methods of examination.
Yes, sir, but frontal lobe perform is little bit haphazard. Like it is important for us because it helps us to differentiate the types of dementias too. Which part of the prefrontal cortex is more effective? So I think it should be more organized.
Okay, ma'am. I'll organize it according to the lobes involved, as you mentioned previously, the motor cortex, premotor cortex, and
Yeah,
also lateral medial prefrontal.
I will share to the group. I will share to the WhatsApp group what we were using, like what we were following. That you can
Yes,
use,
sir.
like you can
Even I
specific.
have made that PPT so that it will be helpful for them.
Yeah, I think that the thing is to like you can ask your own consultants who you are because you or every place they follow different protocols. They feel like the way it is arranged is totally different places. So you can ask,
Yeah.
and once you make a formal list, you can ask your consultants where you are studying and ask them how you follow there. It's better to follow
Yes,
it
sir.
according to those protocols. It will be otherwise difficult. And some of the tests you are mentioning are not practically not possible to examine. So you can exclude those tests and make a list of those in a proper order, arrange it in order. Like it will be easy to perform in the exam.
Sure, sir.
And I read this. What we read was Scrub and Black. A small book. It's easy to read.
Yes,
They
sir.
had
Even
mentioned
we used to
each.
follow Scrub and Black.
Yeah, it is they had actually given how each scoring is done. Everything is very beautifully given. You can read that book also and create a perform also, which is practically easy
Yes,
to
sir.
apply.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would like to conclude frontal lobe examination.
Sir, anything you want to add?
Nothing. Like you just want to tell that it has been more palatable for the exam. Make it a proper order so that you
Yes.
can practically use only those tests you can practically use it include and how to. More important is how to do, how much time you should give
Yeah.
to the patient, and how to when to repeat, when not to repeat, and like how you score it. These things are important. And you can even use the clock drawing also. Like we were doing clock drawing also into that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Like clock drawing actually access a lot of things. It's not just font. There's a lot of things to access in clock drawing. And what about alternate sequencing? What are things you will see in alternate sequencing? You draw like either Motaluria or alternate sequencing. What things you are going to access? Like you are drawing your triangle followed by square like thing, triangle followed by square like thing. That what are you going to access from that?
Sir, sustained attention and response inhibition, sir.
No,
The
no.
patient has
The,
to follow.
yeah, when the patient is drawing it, and suppose after the triangular thing, patient is supposed to draw the rectangular thing, but he is drawing again the triangular thing. He continues like that. What do you think it is?
Sir, perseveration.
It's a task monitoring error or task setting error.
Okay, sir.
It's basically, yeah, when you are starting, suppose you're going to draw a clock. First of all, you have to see whether he or she is able to draw it. Like that, when you are drawing that alternate sequencing, after the triangle, the patient is ask the patient to start from the end where he has stopped. The patient is supposed to start, draw the square like this. So if the patient is continuing with triangle, that means that the task setting is error. And if
Yes, sir.
we start with the square, which is correct, Then he is supposed to draw the triangle, which is correct. Then he is again drawing the triangular thing. Then he had a task monitoring error. Task monitoring error is more of a right hemispherical. Task setting is more of a left hemispherical. Again, when you're asking the patient to draw the clock, if you're supposed to patient to ask the patient to draw the clock,
Yes.
one second. Yes. If you ask the patient to draw the clock also, the first thing is the patient should have the idea about the concept of the clock should be there, and whether the patient can like how is the shape of the clock that requires construction thing. Then how he places the number. If we draw the clock circle correctly, that means the construction is normal. Then if we place the number wrongly, then that means again the task setting error. Then initial numbers are correct. During the putting the other numbers, he got it wrong. That means task monitoring is error. And then how he places the sender, like if you place the sender to one side, that can be either construction or like task monitoring error. Then how is the small this one and large one? And what time will you ask the patient to draw? Anything specific for that? You tell the patient to show me this time now. Like how will you ask the patient?
So, last 5 minutes we will see frontal this. Then we will go with the next lobes. So, Dr. Baishak and Dr. Ratnesh and
Yeah,
Virutna, can you, in last 5 minutes, we'll concentrate on this. So,
yeah, just
after 5 minutes, we'll move to the next lobe.
yeah, I just
Sir,
conclude this. Yeah. So,
sir,
like you should ask something like the both needles should be on the either side of the clock. It should not be on the same side. If you ask the same side, you will miss a lot of things because the clock drawing has not just frontal, not just if you ask the patient, if you want to check multiple lobes in a single sitting, there is one easy test with cognition is to assess the clock drawing.
yes, sir.
So we'll discuss it later.
Yes.
Anything to add, ma'am?
So, we can move to temporal lobe.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
you're audible. You're
Good
audible.
evening, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, audible. Your
Yes,
name?
sir. Good evening, Vishwajit, sir. Dr. Vishwajit.
Yeah, you're from where? You're doing in which place?
Ahmedabad, sir. I'm from Ahmedabad, Zydus Hospital, Ahmedabad. Final year.
Okay. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Dignitary faculties and colleagues. According to sir, may I present like anatomical structure and what anatomical structure will lead to the what abnormality and by how we examine them.
I didn't get that. What you're telling?
Sir, according to the
I think I have some network
anatomy and
issues.
what
It's getting
test
broken.
should be done.
You can start and tell about the basic what all parts of the temporal lobe. Then you just go into the examination.
Hello.
Yeah, you are audible.
Yes, sir. So, sir, uh, according to the anatomical, the medial structure from the temporal lobe, the hippocampus and dentate gyrus. Then toward the inferior side, the parahippocampal and fusiform gyrus. Then from the inferior to the inferior temporal gyrus, then medial temporal gyrus and superior temporal gyrus. So superior temporal, medial temporal, and inferior temporal gyrus are the on the lateral side, and hippocampus and dentate gyrus in medial, and inferiorly parahippocampus and fusiform gyrus. So in hippocampus, right hippocampus mainly for the visual memory, and left hippocampus is for mainly for the verbal memory. So hippocampus is mainly concerned with the recent episodic memory. By For recent memory, we can examine uh, orientation like day, date, month, year, season. Then where are you? Which floor on the hospital? Which city? Which state and which country? And after that, we can ask him, "What is your name? What? Who is who is he? Who is she? And who am I?" Then this is for the hippocampus, and after that, parahippocampus. Parahippocampus is mainly for the novel topographical memory. So in case of a bilateral parahippocampal lesion, the anterograde topographical disorientation will be there. Then fusiform gyrus. Fusiform gyrus is mainly concerned for the color vision, face recognition, letter and symbol recognition. So in case of bilateral fusiform gyrus lesion, central achromatopsia is there. Then in right-sided more than left-sided, right-sided fusiform gyrus may lead to the prosopagnosia, which also may lead to the in occipital lobe lesion also. Then for the later and symbol recognition defect may lead to the alexia and acalculia, particularly for the left fusiform gyrus. Then medial temporal gyrus and inferior temporal gyrus, which is on lateral side and inferior side. For that, in lesion to the medial temporal and inferior temporal may lead to the semantic memory and knowledge. So in semantic memory, we can ask patient to tell who is the first president of India, what is the color of banana.
You can you can you can you can you can go and tell about the how will you examine the temporal lobe. And the temporal lobe basically has a medial and lateral portion. The medial portion is
Yes, sir.
concerned predominantly with memory and emotions, the limbic system and emotions. The lateral portion is concerned with predominantly the language and visuospatial things.
Yes,
So
sir.
visuospatial things actually we will discuss along with occipital lobe and some of the navigation basically in
Right,
parietal
right.
lobe.
Yes,
So
sir.
we'll go with the temporal lobe. So what all things you will examine in temporal lobe? Basically, temporal
Yes,
lobe
sir.
examination is predominantly memory.
Yes, yes, sir. So in memory part, we can examine like immediate memory, as Dr. Ratnesh told. For the immediate memory, we can ask him to repeat the number digit forward, or ask him to repeat a mobile number which we give him to repeat. Then for the recent memory, we can ask to person, ke, what is your name, what is your age, who am I, who is he. We can ask person for the place, like location,
Basically,
where are you, right?
recent memory, uh, recent
Yes, sir.
memory is basically orientation. Basically orientation.
Yes,
So
sir.
actually, we can divide the temporal lobe examinations into the verbal memory examinations, visual memory examinations, and some of the stuff. Like these are the two parts of the temporal lobe. So basically,
Yes,
visual
sir.
memory is predominantly right side, verbal memory is predominantly left side.
Verbal
The
is on
verbal
left side.
memory,
Yes.
yeah, verbal as you're telling, you will divide it into immediate memory, recent memory, remote memory, and the last part is basically new learning.
New learning. Yes, sir.
New learning. Yeah. So immediate memory, recent memory, remote memory, and new learning. These are the four parts.
Yes, sir.
So basically, immediate memory is what you're telling. Digit repetitions you can use. All those things can be used. Then
Yes.
recent memory is basically orientation.
Orientation, three call or three
Yeah.
object recall, then what you have ate in breakfast and what is your admission date. Uh,
Right. Ma'am,
And
anything
for
to add, ma'am?
remote memory, sir, we can ask him or her to which is your first school, what is the passing of your bachelor degree, what is the retirement date, what is your anniversary date.
Ma'am, anything to add, ma'am?
So,
Then, sir, for semantic memory, we can ask who is the first PM, what is the color of banana, how to use Caesar, who is the king of Sri Lanka,
So
and we,
basically, how will you classify memory?
sir, immediate, recent, and remote memory according to the time. and then explicit memory and declarative and non-declarative memories.
So that comes under which heading? So basically, there are
Explicit and
multiple
implicit.
systems of classification of memory.
Based on
Yes.
content, how do you classify memory? Based on time, it is immediate, short term, and long term, right? Based on content, how do you classify memory? Based on awareness, how do you classify the memory?
Explicit and implicit, ma'am.
That is based on,
Awareness.
yeah. About based on content,
Working memory, then procedural
episodic,
memory,
episodic, semantic,
episodic, working, episodic, semantic, and
procedural.
procedural memory. Yes, ma'am.
So can you tell the location for each of these memories? Where do you localize?
So, ma'am, recent memory and episodic memory, for visual, it is right hippocampus, and for the verbal is for the left hippocampus. And then semantic memory and knowledge memory is mostly located in the middle temporal gyrus and inferior temporal gyrus. And procedural memory, which is on SMA, basal ganglia, cerebellum, and supplementary motor area.
So basically, you have multiple classification methods for memory. One classification is time-based, one classification is different classification you are telling. So basically, this implicit and explicit is basically when you classify your long-term memories or based on how you retrieve it. So that will conscious awareness or without conscious awareness. That is implicit and explicit.
Yes.
So in the explicit where or declarative where you can declare or you can explain or
Yes.
you require, yeah, there comes the episodic memory and semantic memory. The
Yes.
explicit
Even
memory
sir,
are two
working
types.
memory,
Working memory is not an explicit memory. Working memory is actually another
yes,
subclassification, another type of classification. Don't mix all these things together. These are separate
yes.
classifications.
Hmm.
So in the like when you get a memory, it has a memory registry where the initial memory enters. That is known as a sensory registries. You have either iconic, echoic, or haptic. Iconic is something which you see. Haptic
Yes,
is
sir.
something which you touch. Echoic is something which you hear. So these are the registry
Yeah.
points. From the registry
Yes.
points, it can either go to short-term memory or it can go to working memory, or sometimes it can be stored in the long term. That is how the memory system works. And the classification is based upon different criteria. If based on the time, you call it as short-term, long-term, and all these things. So one
Yes.
classification is based on long-term memory can be divided to explicit and implicit. In this, the explicit memory is again divided into episodic memory and semantic memory. While
Semantic
the
memory. Yes.
implicit memory, how will you classify?
Sir,
In that
I think
classification?
procedural, priming, procedural, and conditioning memory.
Yeah, procedural, priming,
Priming,
associative or condition learning,
associative,
and
and
non-associative.
conditioning.
And
Yes.
non-associative. There are four types. So
Yes.
basically, implicit memory are four types: procedural memory, priming, associative, or condition reflex, condition learning, and non-associative learning. So
Non-associative. Yes.
yeah, so that is one classification, and where the semantic memory is located in.
Sir, it is in middle temporal gyrus and inferior temporal gyrus.
Okay, so semantic and what about episodic memory?
Sir,
Episodic
recent
memory is
episodic
otherwise known as
memory in the
post-op
hippocampus.
intracerebral
Sir,
memory.
it is in the hippocampus. Visual is in right side and verbal in the left side, dominant side.
So implicit memory, right? The procedural memory is located in.
Sir, supplementary motor area, then cerebellum and basal ganglia.
Okay, basically, this is and parietal part is more involved. That is a
Yes.
procedural memory. Then
Yes.
what about priming? What is priming?
Sir, I think priming is when I heard some new word. By that time, first time I couldn't recognize that word, but after hearing that first word, the next time when will I heard that word, it I will pronounce it more fastly. That is
Yeah,
priming.
priming is a process where the previous exposure, once you have a previous exposure to stimulus, will increase the memory. Like suppose banana, which is yellow in color. So when
Yes.
next time when I see the yellow color, banana comes back to my memory, which is no relation otherwise. So
Yes.
that somewhat like that is known as a priming process. So priming can be used in the rehab mechanisms of language. Then what is
Yes.
associative and non-associative learning? What are they? Priming is in the, again the neocortex. Entire neocortex is involved in the priming.
Yes,
So
sir.
that associative and non-associative learning.
Sir, classical, I know that is for like
Fabulous.
Pavlov conditioning. Pavlov
So
conditioning. While seeing the
yeah,
meat or chicken or fish, I am salivating. Then next time, whenever I see the chicken or meat, that all saliva, I am salivating.
yeah. So associative learning can be either a classical or an operant conditioning. Classical conditioning, basically a classical Pavlov's reflex, where it is
Yes, sir.
emotion linked, where it is more towards amygdala network.
Yes, sir.
And second is a skeletal memory. Skeletal memory is where, like suppose I am a goalkeeper. When the ball comes
Yes,
towards me, I do jump. That is something which I learned from the reflex mechanisms. That is non-emotional bind, not emotional bind. So that is basically predominant in the cerebellum. So priming is neocortex. Procedural memory is basically from the basal ganglia, SMA, and cerebellum. And
yes.
associative condition reflex is from the emotional linked amygdalas, and skeletal
Amygdala.
musculature linked is from the cerebellum. Then you have non-condition, whereas habituations and sensitizations will come. These are
Yes,
the one classification systems of the long-term memory can be classified based on how you recall it with awareness or without awareness.
yes.
Okay. Then I have another classification where you have the working memory. So you were discussing about working memory. So what is working memory basically?
Sir, working memory actually attention, concentration, and manipulate the
Yeah.
temporary hold and
Total memory.
manipulate, sir.
Correct. When you temporarily hold a memory for a short-term period and you manipulate it using your attention,
Yes,
that is known as working memory. Suppose, I am a conductor who is in the bus. I had taken a ticket from one person and I had to give him some money back. I have to remember it for some more time. Maybe after 2 or 3 days, I will forget it. So that is short span of time I can hold in the memory in a short term period, and I will manipulate it. That is known as something
yes,
like a working memory. So
yes.
working memory loop contains what all things?
Sir, attention, concentration, then immediate memory, and we can
It has
ask him
four
for
parts. It is for
digit back.
circuit.
Yes,
It has a visuospatial sketchpad, a phonological loop, episodic buffer, and a central executing network. These are four parts of working memory. Visuospatial
yes,
sketchpad, phonological loop, episodic buffer, and a central episodic network. I mean, central executing network. Sorry. So, like visuospatial sketchpad is where the working memory one input is from the visual. You if I am conductor, I had to remember that to the vision I had given him. Second is something to the phonological, to the hearing. So there is a two
yes,
loops are there, visuospatial sketchpad and phonological. This has to be rehearsed in the mind, rehearsed in the brain to keep it for a short duration of time. That rehearsal requires your executing network. And in between, you have an episodic buffer which lies in between, which will either keep it in the working memory or sometimes you can push it into the episodic memory also.
yes,
So don't confuse with the classification memory because there are different classifications based on different systems.
yes.
Ma'am, anything to add, ma'am?
And also revise about stages of memory too. As Sir told already, the first stage, the phonological group, the central executive, and visuospatial sketchpad. For the second stage, you need to know about the Papert circuit and all. So read about the stages. For each stage
Yes,
also, there will be a little bit like a test will be there separately. Okay, you just revise about the stages of memory too.
yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, may I ask a question? Hello.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, ma'am, if patient is disoriented to time, place, or person
Yeah.
in first place,
Yeah.
Should we give the patient the clue first that you are at this, the time is this, the place is this, uh, I am so, like I tell my name and I ask them to remember. If patient has registration and attention, and despite registering, if they cannot remember, then it is a memory issue. Then it's a temporal issue. Otherwise, if there is no attention or registration only in first place, then it could be a frontal issue, like more diffuse encephalopathic or delirious patients have. So I just had that doubt when patient is disoriented, whether how to localize it to frontal or temporal. Should I give them the clue first, and should I see whether they are getting the clue, whether they are registering the clue, and then I should ask after some time again.
First of all, you wanted to ask me whether orientation is localized to frontal or
Yes,
temporal.
yes,
That's it, right? Yeah.
yes.
So, see, orientation again to place means
Hmm.
self-orientation and topographical orientation. Topographical orientation will be localized to temporal. Self-orientation will be localized to frontal. I think I'm clear.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
yes.
Yeah. So topographical orientation will be localized to temporal and self-orientation will be localized to frontal. So based on that, you need to assess it, whether it is a frontal or a temporal. And you can even ask, like patient will be in the hospital. So whether he is registering in the place he is, where his bed is in the hospital, whether he's able to go to the washroom because he's very new to this place. So if he is not oriented to that new place, it goes more in favor of temporal.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else?
Oh, ma'am, thank you.
We can continue with the examination. Like it's not complete now. Just finish orientation and immediate recall and remote memory told. Then what else we'll examine?
Sir, semantic memory, we can ask him for the first PM, color of banana, how to use Caesar. Then for the visual memory, we can ask him like hidden object is, we ask him first to see the objects, then after some time we can ask him what are the hidden objects are there. Then
How
for the
many objects?
temporal, sir, 4 to 5 objects.
Okay, 5 objects. Okay. Hidden after about 5 minutes, you will ask them to recall it. And there are also some scores are there, like less than 60, more than 60 years. How many items should be recalled in how 5 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah. Then what about new learning?
So new learning, we can ask like in MMSC registration and recall, and in MOCA we can ask 5 objects. Then after 5 to 10 minutes, we can ask him to repeat the words, which are the words with the clue. With the clue, he can retrieve the word or not.
Yeah, like you can like what Swabangla tells is about 4 unrelated words,
Yeah,
and
that
you
is a
can give
paired associative learning, sir. Pair
that is
associative
different.
learning in which we
That
can
is different. That is different.
yes,
That
the
is
pair
different.
associative learning in which we can ask two paired
No,
word
pair
and two
associated
unpaired.
learning is actually different.
Yes, sir.
Pair
New
associated learning
learning
is
is
different. New
like
word learning.
registration and recall.
Yeah, you had to ask 4 words, 4 unrelated
Yes, sir.
words, then registration and recall.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So there are also some score is there, and you can give a cue. What is the importance of giving the cue? How will you differentiate cortical from subcortical?
With clue, the subcortical dementia patient will retrieve the word, sir.
Right. With
That
cue,
is
they
just
will
because.
improve, but cortical with
Yes, sir.
cue also they won't improve.
Yes, sir.
Cortical sometimes with registration process also may not be complete in cortical dementias. And Anything else you'll do? Verbal story recall.
Yes, verbal story we can tell patient about 70 words story like Mohan and Sohan went for the melas with their children and
Yeah.
Sohan's
Basically, the
children get
concept,
lost.
the story will be different. Like, yeah, the story will be different in different areas. Basically, the concept is there should be 26 different structures or
Yes,
informations which are there in the story, and the patient is trying to recall it after so much, I think around 10 minutes, and there is cutoff for the age of less than 70, more than 70, more than 80. All those things are there. You can go and refer the sub and black where they had mentioned about the 26 separate terms,
so
and I think some around 10 or
10,
something has
10.
to be
Yes, sir,
reproduced.
10 out of 26.
Yeah, that you can refer the sub and black.
Yes, yes.
And how do you check for
Then comes the
comprehension
visual
of
memory, and last
language?
is
Yeah,
Ma'am,
yeah, go ahead.
for the comprehension, we can ask one word comprehension, then yes no comprehension, then simple sentence comprehension, then complex sentence comprehension.
Actually, comprehension will be divided as auditory comprehension, gestural comprehension, and reading comprehension.
Reading comprehension. Yes,
In
ma'am.
auditory comprehension, you will be showing simple pointing commands, complex pointing commands, yes or no commands, and
Yes
case
or no
study.
and passive. Yes, ma'am.
So, how many things you need to point out to tell it as a normal? You'll be asking patient to point out at few things,
Maybe
right? For
six
pointing
six out of
commands.
10. 6 out of 10. I exactly don't remember, but 6 out of 10.
True. Is it true? 6 out of 10. Okay, how do
No.
you give a complex pointing command instructions?
I'm like Ravana was killed by the
Hmm.
Ram. So Ravana was
I'm
killed by the
asking
Ram.
you complex pointing commands.
Okay, complex pointing command. Then show me my left ear with your right hand.
No? What is like this is something else. The test you're telling is for something else.
I don't remember.
Yeah, the test which you're telling is for parietal lobe. Which
Yes,
function?
ma'am. Right to left disorientation.
Yes. And for this, for complex pointing commands, just give two instructions. First, point the bottle and then point the fan. Point the
Yes, ma'am.
bottle, then point light, followed by door. So that's how you will be making it more complex for pointing commands. Okay. For
Yes, ma'am.
gestural comprehension, how do you check? Make simple gestures and see how he's understanding. Hello, am I
Hello.
clear? Yeah.
Hello.
Make simple gestures and see if patient is able to comprehend or not.
Yes,
Like
ma'am.
namaskaram, salute, showing your teeth,
Yes.
smiling. So these are the simple gestural things, and you have to see whether patient is able to understand your gestures or not. So that is the gestural comprehension. And reading comprehension, anyhow, will be testing it while reading. How do you
Reading.
check
Yes.
fluency?
How, ma'am, what fluency?
Fluency, yeah.
Ma'am, paragraph reading we can check, or while taking the history,
Directly
or
to
while
paragraph
talking.
reading.
No, while taking the
I'm
spontaneous
asking.
speech.
I'm asking about. Sorry. How do you check repetition?
Uh, First, we can ask like simple naming like help, lotus, then two words, then full sentences, then complex sentences we can ask.
What is the normal repetition?
Uh, about 19 syllabus, 19 syllabus sentences.
How do you check reading?
First, we can ask to read the letters in alphabetical G, D, E, or then we can switch over to the words, then we can switch over to the phrases, then sentences, then paragraphs, then numbers also we can check.
Okay. So, how do you assess it? So, language, how do you assess it?
If reading is impaired,
Okay, what are the steps you'll be checking in language? How do you assess language? Clinical examination. In your exam, you
uh,
got to perform language. So, what are the steps?
spontaneous speech, then spontaneous speech, verbal fluency, comprehension, then repetition, then naming, then reading, and
Writing.
writing.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, do you want to add anything?
Nothing, man.
If last 5 minutes we can summarize this temporal lobe, then Dr. Vinutna, you can present your summary in 5 or 10 minutes. Then
Yeah,
we'll close
okay.
the session.
Uh, Summarize the temporal lobe function test.
Yes. Hello. Yes, ma'am. In temporal lobe, we can check for the vulvar memory, visual memory, then comprehension. Uh, then in memory, we can check for the immediate, recent, and remote according to the time. Then explicit and implicit, and in long term, in explicit
No,
and
no, that
implicit
is
in implicit
that is classification. Madam was telling this. That's about the examination.
examination. Yes.
Right, ma'am? Right, ma'am?
Yes, sir. I'm
Huh.
just asking only
Yes.
the test, examination test.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. In recent memory, we can ask orientation and orientation for the hospital places and daytimes. In remote memory, we can ask him the born date, birth date, first school, then anniversary date. In new learning memory, 4 words we have to give. Then ask after 10 minutes whether he can repeat with the clues or with clues or not. Then visual memory, then verbal fluency, then paired associative memory we can check, then comprehension.
Why
In
did verbal fluency come in temporal lobe?
no, no,
Uh,
verbal fluency,
uh,
comprehension, for the comprehension only.
okay.
Ready? Yes,
Don't get tensed. So you'll
yes,
be checking Wernicke's areas.
yes,
Okay, in temporal. So it's only of comprehension and repetition.
yes.
Okay, yeah. Shall I start the slides?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. Can you able to share
Yes,
slides?
sir.
Uh,
Is my screen
yeah,
visible?
yes, yes. Uh, just uh, just finish in few minutes.
Yeah, yes, sir. I'll take just a 5 minutes.
Thank you.
So the higher function test, as he told, It should have the following headings like education, occupation, languages known, consciousness, cooperation, physical appearance, insight, handedness, and mood. So level of consciousness first to be assessed before starting your examination, and the attention with the help of digit forward and digit backward, days in a week and month in a year. And the level of consciousness before going to exam, just revise the definitions because these are important and they'll be asking about it. What is alert, what is lethargy, what is obtentation, what is stupor, and what is coma. Okay. Next, vigilance. How to check vigilance, which is nothing but sustained attention. We'll go with random letter test or rapid A test. Spelling a word backward, go, no go, serial subtraction, and three-step command, followed by orientation for place, time, and person. So coming to language, you need to check these parameters which contain spontaneous speech, comprehension, fluency, repetition, naming, reading, and writing. So what all parameters you have to see in spontaneous speeches, see how the content of the speeches and what are the paraphasias. Does the speech has any paraphasias, any neologism? How is the prosody? How is the articulation? How is the grammatical construction of the speech? So these parameters you have to mention in the spontaneous speech. Coming to comprehension, as I told earlier, it is divided into auditory, reading, and gestural comprehension. For auditory, it is simple pointing, complex pointing, yes and no, and three-step command. For reading, you just give a sentence and see whether he's able to understand what he read. Gestures is showing the gestures like showing your teeth, salute, and namaskaram. So fluency, again, categorical naming test and FAS test. So categorical naming test is mostly will be using animal naming test. So in a span of 1 minute, minimum of 18 animals need to be named. And for fast test, for F, A, and S, you should ask the patient to repeat how many words he can tell in a minute. So less than 12 indicates a reduced verbal fluency. For repetition, we have to start with single words, then we need to make it a complex sentences. Up to 19 syllables, it is normal. Coming to reading, so you have to read the letters first, followed by words, phrases, and a story. So I have just given a story so that it will be helpful for you for during your examination. You can take this story as a example. And for naming, first, the patient has to name the colors, body parts. So this is the charts, objects, and you can even add parts of an object to make the test even more complicated. So coming to next, after language, we need to go with memory. So in memory, you need to check about immediate memory, that is digit forward and backward. Working memory, which is nothing but serial subtraction and spelling word backward. Short-term memory, that is recalling 4 to 5 unrelated words after a period of span of 5 to 10 minutes. Remote memory consists of personal information, family, and historical facts. So personal information is nothing but place of birth, year of marriage, school information, family information like spouse name, children's name, parents name, and historical facts, nothing but Independence Day, who is the first PM of our country, first CM of our state, Pongal is celebrated in which month. So these questions, you just make a note of it according to the area you belong to. So, so that it will be easy while asking to the patients in the time of examination. So, individualize these questions according to your convenience. Okay. Next, new learning ability should be like 4 unrelated words, and you should ask them to repeat after 5 to 10 minutes. Then you have to give a verbal story recall. So this is the verbal story which we used to do in our loba function test for patients. And paid associate learning should be like easy associate and hard associates. So these are the 5 easy associates and these are the 5 hard associates. So the next comes to fund of information, which are higher cognitive functions, calculation, insight, judgment, proverb interpretation, similarities, complex serial completion and all. So fund of information, these are the questions which you need to prepare. So this we prepared according to our place. So like how many month a year has, what name 2 CMs of your state, who wrote our national anthem, what's the use of a bank, why do we need to wear footwear, where is Tirupati, what's the capital of Andhra Pradesh, and proverb interpretation. These are the 4 proverbs which we used to ask our patients. And coming to frontal lobe, just remember the anatomy. if you remember the anatomy, localization is very easy. So we used to remember like this. First, the central sulcus. Before the central sulcus is primary motor cortex. So check the hand grip. Before that, there'll be premotor cortex, and supplementary, you will be checking the rapid alternating movements. Then comes to Broca's area, you have to check fluency, fastest, and categorical fluency. Then comes the frontal eye field. There you need to check the saccades. Okay, prefrontal cortex is broadly divided into 3 parts, and those 3 parts we need to check individually. So this will be easy for you to organize in your examination. So orbitofrontal cortex, you need to check mood, abstraction, judgment, insight, social behavior, and emotional ability. So judgment, abstraction, insight already you will be covering in the general examination. So you just copy the same thing over here. Then comes the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. There you need to check attention, vigilance, set shifting. In set shifting, you can make it like this. Rapid alternating movements like Luria's triangle, Archimedes loop, inhibitory control, go, no go, motor programming, fist ring or fist side palm, response inhibition, trial A and B, Stroop test, conceptual series completion, and problem solving. So this is the Stroop test for English, and this is the Stroop test we have prepared for Telugu, and this is Stroop test we have prepared for Hindi. And coming to medial frontal cortex, you need to check the lower limb tone, urinary continence, gait, praxis, alien hand phenomenon, and kinetic mutism. So coming to frontal release reflexes, glabellar attack, palmar reflex, sucking, snout, and grasp. So other things, these things you no need to check, but in case if they ask in Viva, so these are also comes under frontal lobe tests. Okay, protease means, ray ostrich complex, cross inhibition, prehension behavior. I think someone has asked how to do prehension behavior. So prehension behavior is nothing but you just sit in front of the patient and put your hands on the table. So you give a instruction telling that don't touch my hands. If the patient is still touching the hands, then it is still then it is a frontal disinhibition behavior. So that is how you test prehension. So frontal assessment battery. So it consists of the following categories, and score less than 12 suggestive of frontal executive type. So temporal lobe. So it's actually easiest part is temporal. For bilateral temporal, commonly we need to check the deafness and the visual fields. Coming to left temporal lobe, you need to check about the language, nothing but comprehension, repetition, verbal memory, and visual agnosia. So visual agnosia, apart from being the left temporal, I would like to say it is a temporo-occipital thing. So we'll discuss detailedly about this visual agnosia and occipital lobe function test. Coming to right temporal, it is about visual memory, auditory agnosia, hallucinations, and prosody of speech. So this is how we organized our LOBA function test for our examination. I'll be sharing this PPT. It will be helpful for you in the last minute before going to exam. You can have a look over it.
Okay, ma'am, this was actually
Yeah,
better
okay.
organized.
Pardon?
Yeah, this was actually better organized one
Yeah,
rather
very
than the
nice,
US program. Yeah.
madam. So if anybody have any question, they can ask. Then in 5 minutes, we will close this.
Hello, sir. Uh,
So in chat,
sir, if a patient having
ray
affected
of which
only,
how to do.
hello, if a patient is affected has only affection of IADL and ADL is not affected, and can we call it as dementia or a mild cognitive impairment?
If ADLs are not affected, even the instrumental ADLs are not affected, and there is no disability for carrying out ADLs, you can call it as mild cognitive impairment only.
I
Then
mean,
you
if the
classify.
instrumental activities are affected, but activities of daily living not affected,
Yeah,
sir.
instrumentals are affected is dementia,
Okay, okay, thanks.
because that is how that you will call it as dementia. Because MCA, why they keep it as MCA separately? Because MCA is like those whose amnestic is higher risk. Again, you can classify it based on the imaging and other findings, whether it is risk or progression is there. And some of the MCAs may not progress also.
Okay, thanks.
Hello. Hello,
Yeah.
sir. Can I
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
one
go ahead.
question? Sir,
Yeah.
this response inhibition test, this go no go test, is it actually only dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, or it includes orbitofrontal cortex also?
Yeah, basically this confusion is because there is an evolution in the thought process of how you approach dementia. Basically, there is no particular lobes right now. It is more based on the how the circuits and how it is working. So, this dorsolateral prefrontal and the orbitofrontal, the lateral portion of the orbitofrontal has actually role with dorsolateral prefrontal. Again, the frontal area, the anterior portion of the dorsolateral prefrontal comes in part of frontal pole. So, actually, this lobe definition is not actually there. This is more of connectomes and these things. So, it has involvement with others also because the orbitofrontal has the role with your reward pathways. So, that also comes in part of inhibition. So, some of the inhibition, like
So
for
in the
example, you were telling
exam,
me,
if they ask the localized,
hello?
sir, if in the exam they ask us localization for that
Yeah,
response
localization.
inhibition,
If you want to tell, if you want to tell a single point, it is dorsal prefrontal.
okay.
It's part of
Uh,
executive
it-
function.
okay, we should not tell us orbitofrontal
It is not
along
actually
with the
that is a
dorsal.
that is the old methodology where we are still following in the exams, where the orbitofrontal is more concerned with your like more of the emotional part. You have a response inhibition coming from the behavioral component. That is actually dealt by the orbitofrontal component. But the classical, what you're telling, the response inhibition, the Stroop test is actually more of executive dysfunction.
So Stroop test also will be DLPFC, not orbitofrontal cortex.
It should be from the dorsal prefrontal is what I think.
It
And
won't
what is your
involve
opinion, ma'am?
orbital cortex.
It
Just
won't, like
confuse in this
orbitofrontal.
part, sir.
Yeah, well, because the orbitofrontal cortex basically, you have to consider the orbitofrontal has a medial and lateral part. The medial part is concerned is the classically what we call the orbitofrontal. That is more concerned with behavioral response. That is linked with your reward pathways. That is the master controller of your reward pathways. And so that is more concerned with behavior and reward responses. While your slightly lateral area of the orbitofrontal, which goes along with dorsal prefrontal, which involves in the executive functions. So you can have response inhibition in two ways. Response inhibition is not just an executive function; it has a behavioral component also. That is why it is more complicated nowadays. But if you take an exam point of view, this should be considered as a part of dorsal prefrontal.
In
Because
some textbook to test orbitofrontal cortex, they are telling there is a Iowa gambling task you can do, but it's not possible in exam. But it, theoretical wise, they have given. Is that
yeah,
relative to that, sir?
I think that is because the boundaries are dissolving. Like if you classify like the lobar definition of taking the history and examination of dementia is actually no longer existing practically. It is just for the exams.
Okay.
Otherwise, it has
Okay.
already the boundaries have dissolved. It is not just even single lobe. It is always the connectomes and the circuit. How is the circuit working? That is why this confusion happens. Even when I was hearing the performer presented by the person, like it is totally different from what we were following. So that happens because for exam it is different, practical it is different. Ma'am, what is your opinion, ma'am?
Sir, can I ask one more doubt?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
about the hello. Hello.
Yeah, yeah,
Can
go
you
ahead.
hear
Yeah.
me? Yeah, sir. Sir, about the medial frontal lobe, the paratonia, which should we do that in the lobar test or in the motor examination during tone examination? Should be mentioned about that
Yeah,
paratonia and
actually,
everything.
that is what I'm telling. Like this performance has lots of difference in each place.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we studied like I mean, our performance was totally different. And when I
Okay,
was
sir.
sitting in the last year presentation, that was totally different. If you go to
Okay.
like NIMHANS or some other places where they are doing the cognitive neurologists, and their performance are totally different. So that is even I have those confusions when I was during last year also because our performance totally different where we mentioned the paratonias and this motor functions everything in the motor part. But
Yeah.
ultimately it depends upon like how your institute is following. I think that is
Okay.
the best way to go because
Okay. Sir,
each place there will be difference.
sir, what is the common method to
check for the paratonia, sir.
Paratonias are of two types. One is Jagannathan
Yeah.
and second is Michigan. So
Yes, sir.
one is like giving towards the movement, one is giving against the movement. So that you
Okay.
have to, the patient is like conscious, you have to deviate the attention, then do the examination. When you change the tone, like you feel like the patient is resisting against you, or whether it is patient is giving towards you. That is what I understood.
Yeah, that's all, sir. Like paratonia will be dividing it into two types, that is Michigan and facilitated paratonia. So in Michigan, like when a patient is touched by the examiner's fingers, like it will be moved away. Examiner fingers will be moved away by the patient. Whereas in facilitatory, patient will help the examiner to take the arm along with them.
Okay.
I think the entire dementia
Madam,
performer,
there's a ma- hello. Topographical orientation, you told temporal lobe, na, ma'am?
Actually, yeah.
Topographical
Topographical
orientation
orientation
you
is about
told.
the parietal lobe. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to correct it. Topographical orientation is more about the parietal lobe. See, orientation is, I can't completely make it to a single thing. So based upon the type, like person means like you want to recall the persons who known. That again comes to temporal lobe, like orientation to a person or family members. Okay, so orientation to place, that is topographical, that comes again to parietal lobe. Okay, next orientation to time.
Frontal lobe.
Yeah.
Orientation to
Pardon?
self orientation, self localizes to
That will come
frontal
to
lobe, ma'am.
frontal lobe. Yeah, self will come to frontal lobe.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, we will give final remark, Dr. Baishak and Dr. Vinod. In 2 minutes, we will close this. Dr. Baishak, can you
yeah, that
give
I
final
want to
remark?
tell this. Yeah, just few things. You have to understand that there is a lot of difference in the performance what you are using, because like those students who are from different areas of India are there in this group. So you may find different performance in different places. Even when we were doing the DM, the same thing is happening. So you have to just ask and follow whatever you are following, and just make it sure that you will be easy to apply during the exam. Because some of the tests we just mentioned may not be easy to apply in the exam. So practically, whatever you can do, and we keep it in an easy format, for palatable, easy format, which you can at least explain and give. Like if somebody asks you what is a reference, you should tell a reference. So what we had was a scrub and black, and but that also is slowly diluting. These confusions are arising because if you take the orientation, if you take the attention is not just a frontal function. It has a lot, the huge circuit is there for attention. So that is why the dementia from the case taking and the examination has been evolving. That is why this confusion comes. So keep a easy performer which is palatable, and you can ask your own HODs and which one to follow, because it will differ from state to state, is what I made out last time also. And understand the basic concepts and how these things are working, how the circuits are there, then it will be easy. Man?
Yeah, I would like to tell
Yeah,
you, like,
Dr.
make your own proforma. So these tests are common, but how do you apply and how do you remember is individualized. So follow the proper order and yeah. Hello.
అని అడిగిపోయింది అనుకో ఖరాబ్ అయితే మళ్ళీ అంతా కొడతాడు ఏంది సార్ వెళ్ళిపోతుంది
స్టిక్కరేరా
Yeah, so we will close this session.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Baishak, and thank you, Dr. Vinutna, for moderating this session, and thank you everyone for attending this interactive session. And Dr. Ratnesh and Dr. Vishwajit, we thank for participating. And I'm requesting every exam-going student to prepare for this practical session, because in next few months anytime the exam date may come. Thank you, everyone. We'll close the session. Thank you.